A Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense.
I want to learn the ways of the Force and become a Jedi like my father.
And I am C-3PO, Human-Cyborg Relations.
But I've never seen anything to make me believe there's one all-powerful force controlling everything.
Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
The Force will be with you, always.
I am the Senate.
In 1977, George Lucas set out to accomplish his dreams. Even though he had very little faith and faced enormous odds, he and his team created a movie that would shake the foundation of popular culture and make cinematic history. It took the world by storm. It inflamed the hearts and imaginations of millions upon millions of people. And despite the probability, it introduced modern society to the wonderful and mystical galaxy that is Star Wars. From revolutionizing the movie industry to changing the rules of merchandising, nothing can truly compare to the juggernaut that is Star Wars. By combining science fiction with fantasy, we discovered a world of Jedi Knights and Sith Lords, a world of epic space battles and horrific monsters, a world where good and evil fight for the outcome of the galaxy. And even after 40 years, Star Wars has shown no sign of slowing down. It is the one, it is the only, a pillar of science fiction, the undisputed champion of all movie franchises. But is it possible to have too much of a good thing? Are we heading into a future that will be oversaturated by Star Wars? No one can be 100% certain, so let's check out the evidence and take a closer look. So before we begin, I have a quick request. Please watch the entire video, or at least watch the conclusion for it. I know that some of you will think that because of the title of the video, that I'm condemning Star Wars. I'm not. I just want to see what direction it's going in, and compare it to some other franchises. This is for the sake of research after all. Before we get to that though, we need to start from the beginning. On May 25th, 1977, Star Wars A New Hope was released in theaters, and it took the world by storm. No one expected that the movie would be so successful. It made over $775 million worldwide, and was, at the time, the highest grossing film in history. It changed the way movies were received and made. From groundbreaking special effects to reviving a genre, Star Wars was truly unlike anything else, and changed the way the world viewed movies. George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, never expected that his idea would be such a huge hit. Initially, all he really wanted was to be in absolute control of his work, and for the studios to keep their hands off. They would constantly challenge George, and would tell him to change parts of the movie.
Memo's worried about whether or not the Wookiee should have pants. They're looking at this thing and saying, couldn't he have some lederhosen? And I thought, isn't this great, you know? Of all the things to worry about, the Wookiee has no pants.
Before Star Wars was released, Hollywood was going through a gritty phase. There were lots of anti-hero movies that took place in dystopian settings. Star Wars, though, drew a lot of its inspiration from the stories of old. Beowulf, the Odyssey, King Arthur's Court. These tales were more traditional, and Star Wars followed that same archetype of storytelling. One that was about good heroes and their coming-of-age struggles. Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers were also inspirations for George Lucas. So when you take the fantasy aspect from the stories of old and combine it with science fiction, you get Star Wars. I truly believe that the main reason why Star Wars was such a hit was its timing. Besides being visually stunning and having great characters, it was a breath of fresh air when the world really needed it. The Vietnam War had just ended, so there was still a lot of unrest amongst the American people and their government. On top of that, the economy wasn't doing too well either, so people across the board were really unhappy. All in all, the 70s was a rough decade, yet there were some good things about it. In 1972, the space race had come to an end. This sparked the imaginations of millions of people as they looked towards the stars and wondered what was out there. For Star Wars, this was perfect timing. Not too early, not too late, and the people fell in love with it. Lucas, his team, and the studio were shocked. They never imagined that the movie would be such a hit, and not just in the sense of a financial success. It was a cultural phenomenon that both adult and child could enjoy. Over the next few years, Star Wars would continue to grow in size and would become a pillar in the world of movies and pop culture. Despite being almost 40 years old, Star Wars is still huge and holds its place as one of the most popular series to have ever been created. The movie left such a huge cultural footprint and had changed the way movies were made. It introduced a digital editing system, it had groundbreaking production, it led to the creation of Pixar, and it revolutionized merchandising. When I was a kid, I had Star Wars everything. Action figures, micro machines, play sets, Lego, bed sheets, cups, video games. I loved Star Wars, and I was not alone. Millions upon millions of people demanded Star Wars anything, and I really mean anything. Heck, back during Christmas of 1977, the company in charge of making Star Wars toys had to sell empty boxes to customers and promised to mail the toys later next year. They were nowhere near prepared for the enormous demand that would surge after A New Hope was released. That was how popular the movie truly was. People were willing to buy cardboard boxes that promised merchandise. I can go on and on about how large of an impact Star Wars had on industry and culture, but that can be a video in and of itself. I recommend that you all go watch Empire of Dreams. It's one of the best comprehensive documentaries about Star Wars that I've ever seen. But watch it later. Keep watching my video for now. Hello? Hello? Where'd everybody go? Oh my god! Back in 2012, Disney bought Star Wars for over $4 billion. George Lucas finally gave up his baby, and now it belongs to one of the most powerful companies on the planet. I remember being in Disneyland when this was announced, and man, were they ready to roll out with their new franchise. I saw Star Wars merchandise from wall to wall. Disney is a company that knows how to market to an audience, and they weren't going to just sell toys. They were going to start a new chapter in the world of Star Wars, and begin making movies again. We all know about the prequel trilogy, and how Lucas tried to cover Anakin's past. Unpopular opinion here, I don't think the prequels were that bad, but that's not the point of this video. Star Wars was finally coming back with a new trilogy, and anthology movies too. So I went and saw The Force Awakens opening night, and I was in love with it. Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but it was good enough to reboot Star Wars and reignite the passion for it for tens, if not hundreds of millions of people across the globe. Not to mention that Disney also validated their investment. Originally, this video was going to be a review about the movie, but I saw how many reviews there already were on YouTube. This got me to thinking, is there too much Star Wars? Or will there be? Now, I'm not gonna hate on it without doing some research first.
Use your aggressive feelings, boy.
So let's do our homework and take a closer look. When it comes to doing research, I love to ask people their opinions and to do polls. I asked my Twitter followers, is there too much Star Wars? And unsurprisingly, most of them said no. I asked them the same question for the movie Frozen, and the majority of people said yes. Now, I wasn't trying to trick people with these questions. I truly wanted to see what they had to say on the matter. I also asked them what other franchises there's too much of. They said Guitar Hero, Rock Band, Five Nights at Freddy's, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, Minions, and Marvel. Now, the last one kind of surprised me. Marvel, huh? Another huge series that is owned by Disney. Are there too many comic book movies? I remember looking at a timeline that showed all the upcoming Marvel and DC movies between now and 2020. 29. I counted 29. If the information here is 100% correct, then dang, there will be no shortage of buff men wearing leotards anytime soon. But my friends Jim, Tom, and Paleo made a good point. There is a lot of material to work with in the world of Marvel, so they can try and keep things fresh. For example, they can make a huge blockbuster action movie like The Avengers, but also make a sci-fi comedy with Guardians of the Galaxy. Captain America: Civil War is very different when compared to those movies too. The point is that Marvel has done a good job of hitting different types of genres for its movies. So now the question is, can Star Wars do the same? Or will it become stagnant? I told my friends that Star Wars has an enormous expanded universe, no pun intended, and that it will have more than enough material to cover. They said that wasn't the issue. The potential problem here is if the Star Wars anthology movies will break away from the style of the main Star Wars trilogy, and how people will react to that. Will all the anthology movies have John Williams music? Will they have the opening title crawl? Or will they go in a new direction? Disney has already announced plans for a young Han Solo movie, a Rogue One movie, and possibly a Boba Fett movie. And all of this on top of the new trilogy they are still producing. I don't doubt people will see these movies, but will they grow tired of them quickly? Steven Spielberg stated that comic book movies will go the same way as Western movies. He said, and I quote, "We were around when the Western died, and there will be a time when the superhero movie goes the way of the Western. It doesn't mean there won't be another occasion where the Western comes back and the superhero movie someday returns. Of course, right now, the superhero movie is alive and thriving. I'm only saying that these cycles have a finite time in popular culture. There will come a day when the mythological stories are supplanted by some other genre that possibly some young filmmaker is just thinking about discovering for all of us. So, is it just a matter of time then? Do release dates need to be more spread out for comic book movies, and possibly Star Wars too? I said before that Star Wars is timeless, but there are very few Star Wars movies, and they were released over a wide period of time. If Disney goes the same path with Star Wars as they do with Marvel, could it potentially die out quickly? Doug Stone, a box office analyst, said that there's one type of movie series that's immune to franchise fatigue, and that is a series with a defined conclusion instead of an open-ended storyline. Examples include Harry Potter, Twilight, and The Hunger Games. As long as those films stay reasonably true to their source material and quality remains high, they won't suffer from oversaturation. He also said that an example of where this faltered, though, was the Narnia films. All of these series are based on books, though, while Marvel and Star Wars are not. Yeah, I know that Marvel's based on comic books, but they don't really have conclusions, so it's not really the same. The article also mentioned movies that nearly killed franchises, such as Star Trek V and Batman and Robin. Some people say that Batman and Robin was, quote, the first true comic book movie franchise killer. Obviously, superhero movies bounced back, and they are really big right now. But is it just a matter of time until an ill-received Avengers movie comes out that cripples the comic book genre? Or is it just too big for that to happen? I know I've spent a good portion of this section comparing Star Wars to Marvel, but that is because we have no idea what the future will truly bring, and that Marvel is, in my opinion, the best example to compare Star Wars to, especially since Disney owns both franchises. Will Star Wars succeed and grow in the hands of Disney, or will it be driven into the ground with oversaturation? Is there a sweet spot when it comes to quality versus quantity? Nobody knows the answer, and only time will tell. So in conclusion, is there too much Star Wars? As of right now, I would say no. Star Wars is such an amazing series, and it truly has touched the lives of millions of people across the globe. I cannot even think of a franchise that comes close to what Star Wars has achieved. I have coworkers who have never seen Star Wars before, but they still know who Darth Vader is. That is a testament to the reach and impact Star Wars has had on society. It changed the movie industry. It revolutionized merchandising. It brought to life endearing characters and opened our minds to a universe of science fiction and fantasy, where good stands against evil and fearless adventurers face off against the odds. A galaxy that is home to billions of aliens, where daring pilots soar into battle and brave Jedi duel to the death. Disney now holds the reins for one of the most beloved movie franchises in history. And now, we will have to wait and see what they set out to accomplish. No matter what happens though, people across the world will always hold a special place in their heart for the wonderful galaxy that is Star Wars. Hey guys, I just wanted to thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, then please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Share it with a friend or someone. Also, a shout out to my patrons. Thank you for your support. Once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.